Hey there, witches and wizards. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're shining a light on one of the most underappreciated figures in magical history. While everyone knows about Gryffindor's bravery, Ravenclaw's wisdom, and Slytherin's ambition, there's one founder who often gets overlooked, but her legacy might be the most important of all. That's right, we're talking about Helga Hufflepuff. So grab your favorite cup of pumpkin juice, get comfortable, and let's explore the life and lasting impact of this remarkable witch. Let's start at the beginning. Helga Hufflepuff lived around the 10th century. Specifically, we're talking about the 990s CE. She was one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, alongside Godric Gryffindor, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. But here's what makes Helga special from the very start. She came from the broad valleys of Wales. Now, what do we actually know about her character? Well, Helga Hufflepuff was described as a woman with a strong sense of fairness and compassion. Unlike her fellow founders who had very specific criteria for the students they wanted to teach, Helga took a radically different approach, and we'll get to that in just a moment. She's been depicted with red hair in various historical accounts, though we should note that medieval magical portraiture wasn't always consistent. What we do know for certain is her personality: warm, kind, patient, and dedicated to giving everyone a fair chance. Around 990, CE4 of the greatest witches and wizards of the age came together with a revolutionary idea: to create a school where young magical people could learn to harness their abilities in safety away from the persecution of muggles. This was during a time when witch hunts were becoming more common, and magical folk needed sanctuary. Each founder brought something unique to the table. Godric Gryffindor was known for his dueling prowess and brought his legendary sword. Rowena Ravenclaw was brilliant and brought architectural genius. She actually designed much of the castle's ever-changing structure. Salazar Slytherin was cunning and brought powerful dark magic knowledge, though he'd later become controversial. But Helga? Helga Hufflepuff brought something arguably more important. She brought the food. Now, before you laugh, think about it. She didn't just bring recipes. Helga's expertise in food-related charms means that the magical feasts we see throughout Hogwarts history, those elaborate spreads that appear out of nowhere, that's Helga's magic at work, passed down through centuries. And here's something incredible. Many of the recipes used in the Hogwarts kitchens today are said to originate from Helga Hufflepuff herself. The house elves in the Hogwarts kitchens, and yes, we know where those kitchens are, right below the Great Hall, accessible through a portrait of a fruit bowl. They're continuing a tradition that Helga started over 1,000 years ago. Now, here's where Helga Hufflepuff truly distinguished herself as a founder. While Gryffindor sought the brave, Ravenclaw wanted the intelligent, and Slytherin desired the pure-blooded and cunning. Helga famously said she would teach the lot and treat them just the same. This wasn't just a nice sentiment, it was revolutionary. At a time when magical society was already forming hierarchies and divisions, Helga Hufflepuff stood firm on the principle that every magical child deserved an education, regardless of their background, blood status, or natural talents. The Sorting Hat itself, yes, that hat, sings about this in its songs. It specifically mentions that Hufflepuff took all the rest, but not in a negative way. She took those that other founders overlooked, and she valued qualities that might seem ordinary, but are actually extraordinary: hard work, dedication, patience, loyalty, and fair play. Think about what this means. While other founders might turn away a student who wasn't particularly brave, or brilliant, or ambitious, Helga saw potential in everyone. She believed that with the right guidance and support, any witch or wizard could achieve greatness. That's not just inclusive, that's visionary. Let's talk about the Hufflepuff Common Room, because it tells us so much about Helga's values. Located in the basement of Hogwarts near the kitchens, notice the connection to food again? The entrance is hidden in a stack of barrels. To get in, you have to tap the barrel 2 from the bottom, middle of the second row, in the rhythm of Helga Hufflepuff. And here's the brilliant part. If you get it wrong, you get doused in vinegar. It's a security measure, sure, but it's also very Hufflepuff. It doesn't seriously harm intruders, just embarrasses them a bit and sends them on their way. Inside, the common room is described as welcoming and cozy, with yellow hangings, comfortable armchairs, and little underground tunnels leading to the dormitories. There are circular windows that look out onto rippling grass and dandelions. It's earthy, warm, and homey, exactly what you'd expect from a space designed by someone who valued comfort and belonging. The dormitories themselves have circular doors like barrel lids, and according to those who've stayed there, Hufflepuff has the coziest dormitories of all the houses. The beds have patchwork quilts, and there are copper warming pans for cold nights. It's all very practical, comfortable, and thoughtful, just like Helga herself. Now we need to talk about one of the most significant magical artifacts associated with Helga Hufflepuff, her cup. This wasn't just any goblet. This was a magical artifact of immense power and historical importance. The cup was made of gold and featured 2 finely wrought handles with a badger engraved on the side. This badger, of course, was the symbol of Hufflepuff House. The cup was said to possess certain magical properties, though the exact nature of these powers isn't fully documented in historical records. What we do know is that this cup became a treasured heirloom, passed down through Helga Hufflepuff's descendants. It remained in the family for generations, representing not just material wealth, but a connection to one of the greatest witches in history. Unfortunately, the cup's story takes a dark turn. It eventually came into the possession of Hepzibah Smith, a descendant of Helga Hufflepuff, who lived in the 20th century. Hepzibah was a wealthy witch and an avid collector of magical artifacts. She was incredibly proud of owning this piece of her ancestors' legacy. In the 1940s, Hepzibah showed the cup to a young Tom Riddle, who would later become Lord Voldemort, when he was working at Borgin and Burke's. She wanted to impress him with her treasures, not knowing she was dealing with one of the most dangerous wizards who would ever live. Shortly after that meeting, Hepzibah Smith died under mysterious circumstances. Her house elf, Hoki, was blamed and convicted of accidental poisoning, but the cup, along with Slytherin's locket, which Hepzibah also owned, disappeared. Tom Riddle had murdered Hepzibah and stolen both artifacts. What Voldemort did next was perhaps the ultimate desecration of Helga Hufflepuff's legacy. He turned her precious cup, a symbol of her values of fairness, loyalty, and hard work, into a Horcrux. He used murder to split his soul and hid a fragment of it within this artifact that once represented everything good about magical education. The cup was then hidden in the Lestrange vault at Gringotts Bank, protected by Geminio and Flagrante curses that would cause any object touched to multiply and burn. It remained there until 1998, when Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger broke into Gringotts during their hunt for Horcruxes. Hermione Granger ultimately destroyed the cup using a basilisk fang in the Chamber of Secrets, eliminating another piece of Voldemort's soul. In a way, it's fitting that Hermione, someone who embodies so many Hufflepuff qualities like loyalty, hard work, and dedication, was the one to free Helga's cup from its dark purpose. Not everything was peaceful in the early days of Hogwarts. Despite their shared vision of educating young witches and wizards, the 4 founders had significant disagreements, particularly regarding who should be admitted to their school. Salazar Slytherin believed that magical education should be kept within all magic families. He distrusted Muggle-born students and thought they were untrustworthy. This created a fundamental rift between him and the other founders, especially Helga Hufflepuff, whose entire philosophy was built on accepting everyone. The Sorting Hat's songs tell us about these disputes. The founders argued about whether Muggle-born should be admitted to Hogwarts. For Helga, this wasn't even a question. Of course they should be admitted. Every magical child deserved the chance to learn and grow. These weren't minor disagreements. They represented fundamentally different visions for what the magical world should be. Slytherin wanted exclusivity and purity. Helga wanted inclusivity and fairness. Eventually, the disagreement became so intense that Salazar Slytherin left the school entirely. Before he left, though, Slytherin built the Chamber of Secrets deep beneath the school, a hidden chamber containing a basilisk that could be released to purge the school of Muggleborns. Thankfully, this chamber remained sealed for centuries. We don't know exactly how Helga Hufflepuff felt about Slytherin's departure, but given her values, we can imagine she was saddened by it. She believed in unity and cooperation. She believed people could work together despite their differences. Slytherin's departure must have felt like a failure of that ideal. So what was it actually like to be taught by Helga Hufflepuff? While we don't have detailed accounts of her specific teaching methods, we can infer a lot from the values she instilled in her house. Helga believed in patience. She understood that not everyone learns at the same pace, and that some students need more support than others. She didn't see this as a weakness. She saw it as an opportunity to help someone reach their potential. She taught her students that hard work beats natural talent, that loyalty and friendship are more valuable than individual glory, that treating people fairly, even when it's difficult, is what separates good witches and wizards from mediocre ones. The qualities valued by Hufflepuff House, dedication, patience, loyalty, and fair play, these aren't flashy. They don't make for dramatic stories the way bravery or cunning do. But think about the most successful people in any field. They succeed because they work hard, they're reliable, they treat others well, and they don't give up. Helga Hufflepuff understood something profound. Magical ability means nothing without character. You can be the most brilliant witch or the bravest wizard, but if you're not loyal to your friends, if you don't work hard, if you don't treat people fairly, then what's the point? Helga's legacy lives on through the countless witches and wizards who've been sorted into her house. And contrary to popular belief, Hufflepuff has produced some absolutely remarkable magical people. Let's start with Newt Scamander, the famous magizoologist and author of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. His dedication to understanding and protecting magical creatures, his loyalty to his friends, and his tireless work ethic, pure Hufflepuff. Then there's Cedric Diggory, who represented Hogwarts in the Triwizard Tournament. He showed exceptional fairness. Remember when he wanted a rematch after Harry fell off his broom? He demonstrated loyalty to his school and his friends, and ultimately, he showed tremendous courage. His death was a tragedy that affected the entire wizarding world. We also have Nymphadora Tonks, the brave Auror and member of the Order of the Phoenix. Her loyalty to the cause of fighting Voldemort, her dedication to protecting others, and her hard work in becoming an Auror, all Hufflepuff traits. And let's not forget Professor Pomona Sprout, the head of Hufflepuff House and herbology professor. She carried on Helga's legacy of nurturing students and seeing potential in everyone. She was instrumental during the Battle of Hogwarts, using her knowledge of dangerous plants to help defend the castle. The truth is, while Hufflepuff might not produce as many famous names as some other houses, they produce good people, reliable people, the kind of people you want beside you when things get tough. And isn't that what Helga wanted all along? Beyond founding Hogwarts and establishing her house, Helga Hufflepuff made lasting contributions to magical education that we still benefit from today. First, there's her work with food-related charms. The magical feasts at Hogwarts, the way food appears and is kept fresh, the variety and quality of meals provided to hundreds of students. All of this stems from charms that Helga developed or perfected. She also established the relationship between Hogwarts and house elves. Now, we know this is a complicated issue in modern times, but in Helga's era, she provided employment and safety to house elves who might otherwise have been mistreated or homeless. The Hogwarts kitchens became a place where house elves could work in relative comfort. More broadly, Helga's insistence on accepting all students shaped the very nature of Hogwarts. Today, Hogwarts accepts students based purely on magical ability, not blood status, wealth, or connections. That's Helga's influence. Without her, Hogwarts might have become an exclusive institution only for pure-blood families. She also contributed to the creation of the sorting hat itself. All 4 founders enchanted Gryffindor's hat, so it could sort students into their appropriate houses. Helga's contribution ensured that students who might not fit neatly into other categories would still have a home at Hogwarts. Let's talk about the symbolism associated with Helga Hufflepuff and her house, because it tells us so much about her character and values. The house animal is the badger. Now, badgers might seem like an unusual choice compared to lions, eagles, and serpents. But badgers are incredibly interesting creatures. They're hardworking. They dig extensive underground burrow systems. They're loyal to their family groups. They're generally peaceful, but they're fierce when defending their homes or loved ones. Badgers don't seek out fights, but they don't back down from them either. They're tenacious and determined. You can't intimidate a badger into giving up. These qualities mirror exactly what Helga valued: peaceful but strong, hardworking but not aggressive, loyal but not blind. The house colors are yellow and black. Yellow represents warmth, optimism, and loyalty. Black represents determination and the earth. Remember, Hufflepuff Common Room is underground, connected to the earth element. These aren't flashy colors like red and gold, or cool and mysterious like blue and bronze. They're warm, stable, and grounded. The element associated with Hufflepuff is earth. Earth magic is about growth, nurturing, stability, and patience. You can't rush a plant to grow. You have to provide the right conditions and wait. That's very Hufflepuff. Helga understood that students, like plants, need the right environment and patient care to flourish. Now, we need to address something that's bothered me for years. There's this persistent misconception that Hufflepuff is somehow the leftover house, or that it's for students who aren't good enough for the other houses. Let me be crystal clear. This is absolutely wrong. Yes, the Sorting Hat says that Helga took the rest. But context matters. She took the rest because she saw value in everyone, not because others were rejects. She chose to accept all students, while other founders were being selective. That's not a weakness. That's strength. Being sorted into Hufflepuff means the Sorting Hat saw in you the qualities that Helga Hufflepuff herself valued most: loyalty, dedication, fairness, and hard work. These aren't consolation prizes. These are the foundations of character. Think about the real world for a moment. Who do you want on your team? Someone who's flashy but unreliable? Or someone who shows up every day, works hard, has your back, and treats everyone fairly? The second person, right? That's a Hufflepuff. Some of the most successful people in history, magical and muggle alike, succeeded because of Hufflepuff qualities: persistence, loyalty, fairness, hard work. These aren't secondary traits. They're essential ones. Unfortunately, we don't know many details about Helga Hufflepuff's later years or her death. Historical records from the medieval period are incomplete, and magical history from that era is particularly sparse. What we do know is that she remained at Hogwarts for many years after its founding, teaching generations of students. She would have seen Salazar Slytherin leave. She would have witnessed the early traditions of the school taking shape. She would have trained the first professors, who would eventually take over teaching duties. By all accounts, she lived a long life, though we don't know exactly how long. Medieval wizards often lived longer than their muggle counterparts, thanks to magic. She had descendants who carried on her bloodline for centuries, eventually leading to Hepzibah Smith in the 1900s. After her death, Helga Hufflepuff was remembered as one of the 4 great founders. Her portrait was hung in Hogwarts. We don't see it in the main series, but it's mentioned that portraits of all 4 founders exist somewhere in the castle. But her real legacy isn't in portraits or artifacts. It's in the values she instilled in her house, the inclusive philosophy she championed, and the countless witches and wizards who've been shaped by her teachings over the centuries. When Hogwarts faced its greatest test, the Battle of Hogwarts in 1998, Hufflepuff House showed exactly what Helga's legacy meant. When Voldemort and his Death Eaters attacked the castle, students were given the option to leave or stay and fight. You know which house had the second highest number of students stay and fight after Gryffindor? Hufflepuff. This surprised some people, but it shouldn't have. Loyalty to their school, their friends, their values. That's what made Hufflepuff stay. They weren't seeking glory or trying to be heroes. They were standing by their friends and protecting their home. That's pure Hufflepuff, Professor Sprout led Hufflepuff students in defending the castle. They used their knowledge of herbology to great effect, deploying dangerous plants against the Death Eaters. They fought bravely, loyally, and many sacrificed everything. In that moment, when everything was on the line, Hufflepuff showed the wizarding world what Helga had always known: that loyalty, hard work, and fairness aren't soft qualities. They're warrior qualities. They're the qualities that make people stand firm when others run. They're the qualities that win wars. So, there you have it, everyone. The story of Helga Hufflepuff, medieval witch, school founder, champion of fairness and inclusion, and creator of a legacy that continues to shape young witches and wizards over 1,000 years later. She came from the valleys of Wales with her food charms and her generous spirit. She co-founded the greatest magical school in history. She stood up for the principle that every magical child deserves an education. She created a house that values the qualities that truly matter: loyalty, hard work, patience, and fair play. Her magical cup became a Horcrux, but it was ultimately destroyed, freeing it from darkness. Her descendants carried on her bloodline for centuries. Her house has produced some of the wizarding world's most dedicated, loyal, and hard-working individuals. In a world that often celebrates flash and fame, Helga Hufflepuff reminds us what really matters. She reminds us that kindness is strength, that loyalty is power, that hard work beats natural talent, that treating everyone fairly isn't weakness, it's wisdom. So the next time someone dismisses Hufflepuff or suggests it's somehow lesser than the other houses, remember this: Helga Hufflepuff was one of the 4 greatest witches of her age. She helped build Hogwarts. She stood up for inclusion when others wanted exclusivity. She valued character over bloodlines, and her legacy has endured for over a millennium. What do you think about Helga Hufflepuff? Do you identify with Hufflepuff values? Who's your favorite Hufflepuff character? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing your thoughts on these deep dives into magical history. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new, subscribe for more deep dives into Wizarding World history, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Remember, everyone, stay loyal, work hard, treat people fairly, and keep the magic alive. Until next time, this has been your complete guide to Helga Hufflepuff. See you in the next video.